Hi everybody, a huge warm welcome to Volkswagen's first ever global virtual launch. I'm Eddie Jordan. I spent my entire life in motorsport, initially as a driver, then I became team boss, if you like, of the junior formulas, Formula 3, Formula 3000, and subsequently wound up as a winning entrant in Formula 1. But these are very difficult times, and we're talking about why are we doing this as a virtual launch. I was supposed to be in Johannesburg at the launch of this program in front of all of you great people, but that wasn't to happen. So we've come up with what I think is a novel and a hugely exciting format. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my experience with Volkswagen as well, which is something that I feel very proud about and is something that had a huge knock-on effect, not just for me, but for other people involved. I had been running a strong and successful winning Formula 3 team, mainly with Toyota, and I decided to make a very big change because I felt that there was a move coming in motorsport, and that move was to the GTI engine, which Holger Spies made for Volkswagen. And Johnny Herbert, myself, Jordan, and Volkswagen went on to win the 1987 prestigious Formula 3 championship. But it also gave me the belief that I could get on and win in Formula 1. So, do I owe a lot to Volkswagen? Absolutely. Do I owe a lot to the GTI engine? The great story is that it's about to embark on its 8th generation of engines and cars. And if it's anything to go by for the previous 7, we're in for a spectacular time. I've been very fortunate. I've been able to see this new car, and for me it's embraced everything that I would hope it would, and I can see it being a spectacular success in so many different ways. So enough from me. It's all down now to the launch of this car, and I want to say thank you. Thank you for giving me the time. I've enjoyed it immensely. It was done as a gesture from me to you guys at Volkswagen, because I owe you so much when I think back of those times in the mid-80s. Had you not been there, I'm not sure I would have wound up where I wound up. For you, it's been a great journey. Everyone at home, enjoy what you're going to see, and thank you for giving me the time.
Now, when Eddie Jordan welcomes you to the reveal of a race car, you know you're in for a very special ride. I'm Maurice Roberts, and this is the reveal of Volkswagen Motorsport South Africa's global touring car for 2020. Now, as Eddie alluded to, we were meant to reveal this car back in March to 80 local media and guests here in Johannesburg, but instead, what are we doing? We've gone global, engaging with an international audience. So welcome wherever you may be in the world, and of course, thank you very much for joining the Volkswagen family this afternoon. Now, I've got some very cool pit crew here. I don't know how handy they are going to be at talking a wrench, but we've got the head of Volkswagen brand passenger cars here in South Africa, Martina Benne, and head of Volkswagen Motorsport South Africa, Mike Rowe. Good?
Good afternoon.
Exciting days. Are you happy you're not working on the cars?
Well, I think the cars are happy that I don't work on them.
You'd like to drive them, right?
Well, I do.
Listen, I mean, we know we're doing business unusual at the moment. I think that is the buzzword. As a brand, thinking out the box, it's coming up with some pretty cool and creative things. How is Volkswagen finding itself at the moment, production-wise? Are things back to normal?
Well, so of course COVID-19 has had an impact on us as a brand, and also on our plants around the world. In the month of April, when we had lockdown level 5, we didn't sell one car, we didn't deliver one vehicle.
Crazy, yeah.
There was like really for a situation which we weren't used to a market share of 0%. But anyway, so since beginning of May, we are back in production. So Uitenhage plant ramped up production. Also all around the world, the other plants ramped up production. And I think last plant coming back was the Mexican plant, Puebla plant, where we get the Tiguan Allspace from mid of June. So now we are all back to business, which is good.
But you know what's amazing as well, though? I mean, as a brand here in South Africa, you've taken up the opportunity to really engage with the community and make a difference for the community. It's challenging times. I mean, I think of the field hospital that you've set up, converting a plant into that, and I think that's that strong ethos that Volkswagen as a brand has.
Yeah, no, definitely. So under the leadership of our managing director and chairman, Thomas Schäfer, and initially it was his idea also to convert a part of the plant, the so-called B plant in PE in Uitenhage, into a field hospital, which in the final stage can can have up to 3,300 patients, and we have handed that over to the local municipality, to Nelson Mandela Bay last week. So yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I think we find ourselves in really trying times, but it is important to try and stay positive. I think, Mike, from a motorsport perspective as well, I think people don't always realize just how big this industry is and how many suppliers are involved in producing the race cars at the end of the day. It's been tough times for them.
Yes, Marius, it has been. There's probably around 800,000 people that are employed in small motorsport businesses from our level down to club level. So it's been tough for them because if they're not at the racetracks, they don't earn money. So yeah, we need to get the sport going as quickly as we can. We are able to test now, which has helped a lot. At least customers are able to go and test their cars. And if you see the open days that have happened at Zwartkops, everyone's flooding there. They do have restrictions on numbers, obviously, because there are certain regulations around COVID. So, but yeah, we need to get it going.
But Mike, I mean, that is, for me, what is exciting. The fact that as a brand, we're revealing this car today means we could go racing. Is that a distinct possibility?
I think it's definitely a possibility. It will probably be largely regionally based because national travel is going to be a problem. And if you look at what's happening around the world, they're all starting to get going. We probably will race without spectators initially, but I think it's important that we at least create television content for our fans. And so we are hopeful that we can get going in August. We did plan for July, but there's still some work to do. So hopefully we can get going in August and squeeze some events in.
So yeah, it certainly has been a damn challenging start to the year, and I know I have wished that I could just hard reboot and start 2020 again, as I'm sure you have as well. But there's light at the end of the tunnel, as we're talking about now. Tracks are reopening, drivers are getting out of their sim rigs and finally strapping into real cars as we gear up to go racing again. But for Volkswagen as a brand, there's another massive launch that we can all look forward to.
Volkswagen.
Have you noticed you sitting looking at the screen smiling, right? Yeah, golf does that to you. GTI memories we all have. It's a badge that defines a segment. Its adverts powerful as the car, a true icon. How do you define what has made GTI such a massive success globally, but obviously for us in South Africa?
It's got quite a long history in South Africa, right? It has been launched in 1982, so we are with this with the GTI already for 38 years, so which is a pretty good heritage. Golf as a brand democratizes, and the Golf GTI brand democratized performance. Positioned as a hot hatch in South Africa, and of course, as Golf stands for German engineering, but also quality of workmanship and reliability, and that's the GTI. And just to throw in some numbers from the current generation, the Golf 7, we have sold 40,000 units in total, out of which more than 33% were GTI. So every third Golf was a GTI, and that made us one of the top 10 markets in terms of GTI globally, which is super cool. And GTI as a brand, is the brand, is the Vrpa.
Been in South Africa far too long.
didn't
You've got the Vroepa going. Mike, I mean, we all have GTI stories. Now, I had a Golf 2 GTI. If we go back, you look at the history books from a motorsports perspective here in South Africa, that race on a Saturday, buy on a Monday mentality, do you think that had a lot to do with why South Africans are so in love with GTI?
Absolutely. I think the first time people saw Golf 1 GTI was at a racetrack, because it literally arrived and went and conquered an endurance event in East London and did extremely well, and then followed on at Killarney in Cape Town with a victory against cars way above its fighting weight. But if you look at what GTI has achieved since then to now in motorsport, it's been phenomenal. Certainly Generation 1 and then 5, 6 and 7 have conquered the racetracks and won so many championships.
Can we talk a bit about number 8?
Well, we can.
Oh, man. Looks incredible. Great that the international commercial was shot here in South Africa as well. Just got to throw that in there. How do you take something so good to the next generation?
Well, I think the secret of golf in general, but specifically on GTI, is that you don't change it radically, right? Because of that strong heritage, of that huge heritage. So you must have an evolution. And that's kind of, I think, what worked out super well with a new GTI, with the Golf 8 GTI. My favorite part in the exterior design, right? That's 5-dot fog light design, which is on the bottom part of the bumper. So that's like really kind of super cool and gives it something special. But I think in the Generation 8, the revolution. With the Golf and the Golf GTI, that happens in the interior. Yeah. So it's kind of, this really becomes now like a digital car. You've got this kind of driver's workplace, as it is called now, with a screen which is bigger than my TV screen. So that's super cool. And I can tell you the specific Golf 8 GTI skin in that interior is super. It's to the point. It's very cool.
You're talking about all the cool tech, because I mean, that is what people love. But at the end of the day, they still want a Vroepa from traffic light to traffic light, and it's got good go.
Yeah, no, it's not too bad, huh? It's a 2.0 engine with 180 kilowatt, and it'll
be okay.
Yeah.
Mike, you were mentioning, the success stories to the brand. I mean, the rally program and everything else. But from Volkswagen Motorsport South Africa's perspective, you can't get better than your year that you had last year in terms of 2019. Massively successful for you guys.
I think we came out the blocks at the Gallop, and we just built on it from there. And the team did a phenomenal job throughout the season. Throughout, we had the odd niggle here and there, but Keagan he just kept scoring the points. At the end of the day, that's what mattered. And Bradley did, I think he won almost all the races in GTC too. So the net result is that we ended the year winning 4 championships. Both manufacturers and
never
both
been
drivers.
done before.
So it was a super year for us, for sure.
Well, as you said, the GTI badge over the years has been dominant in motorsport for Volkswagen Motorsport in South Africa. As we said, 2019, incredibly special one. So let's have a look back at some of those highlights from last year.
Thank VW Motorsport for all the effort they put into GTC2.
Unbelievable. I got no words right now to describe it. But I'd love to thank my team. Volkswagen Motorsport did an awesome job throughout the whole year.
Yeah, as Mike was mentioning earlier, a true team effort, fantastic result. But we've obviously been speaking GTC program, but we can't forget the success of Polo. I mean, with 24 years racing here in South Africa, it's a global success story, actually.
Indeed. It's 24 years this year, so next year it's a quarter of a century. I think it's unheard of that a series is run as successful as this one for so long. But again, we raced the first Polo and we've updated through the years to every generation. The current car is probably the most relevant because it's a Polo GTI. It uses the same engine, same gearbox that you can buy off the showroom floor. The other versions have all been out of the parts bin, but not quite Polos that you can buy. But this car, what you see on the track is what you can buy on the showroom floor, which I think is really special.
You know what's amazing for me though as well, I mean, we talk Polo Cup and the heritage of the series. Just you've created global superstars from a driver perspective. When we talk Kelvin van der Linde, Sheldon van der Linde, Jordan Pepper, Tasman Pepper, they've all come through the ranks. So we really are breeding fantastic drivers through Volkswagen Motorsport.
Indeed, you mentioned those 4 drivers that now have international careers. But if you look at our current drivers, we're also products of Polo Cup. They both raced for the same team, so for Signature Motorsport. And they learned they honed their skills in Polo Cup. So if you look at the GTC driver lineup across brands, many of them cut their teeth in Polo Cup. So it's provided a great platform for many drivers in South Africa and those that are now have international careers.
And super exciting racing too. But Martina, from a brand perspective, how important is that marriage? We know how performance focused our consumers are, so these two need to work well together, and they do.
Yeah, no, definitely they do. As you know, Volkswagen stands for moving people forward, and that's definitely true also for our liaison with the motorsport. We've got this driving academy where we, on the one side, train customers, train people, but where we also develop young drivers, move them forward into the Polo Cup, for example, and from there, as Mike was alluding to, into the GTC sports. So it's really about development, and that's also like close to our heart as a VW brand. For this new season, we've also announced a new sponsorship with a kart team called Squadra Course, and that's also partner of our development program in motorsport, that we want those young drivers in the karts also moving forward, moving up to a Polo Cup and probably to a GTC at the very end.
So I mean, they fall in love with the brand from a very early age, and you actually help them the whole way through. The critical question now though is, Mike, 2019, fantastic, won everything. Real pressure now because you've got to defend it. Have you got the car to do that?
You bet we have.
All right, I think it's time. Let's see. Those are proper race faces, boys. How good does this thing look?
It's beautiful. I had no words when I first saw it.
I still don't have words, actually, Keagan. I'm like, but you've been part of the process, though. You've been watching this development from the ground up.
Yes, I was lucky enough to come in here every week, once a week, irritating the mechanics a bit, asking questions and watching this baby grow. But yeah, it's just what an honor to be a part of this team and this car. Hopefully I can
defend the title.
Yes, with it.
We're going to get that. Daniel, for you, first impressions when you saw your new weapon.
Yeah, no, obviously Keags has had a chance to drive it already, but I mean, seeing the car, complete, the team have stunned us again. Every time you look at it, you don't want to stop looking at it. When you walk out the warehouse, you don't want to stop looking at it. It's just unbelievable.
You just get a feeling sometimes, when you see this car, you just know this thing means business. This is the real deal.
No, for sure. You know, definitely the team have stunned us again last year in 2019. You know, the car was fantastic. You know, this car just blows that car away. And I think, you know, there are good things to come.
Daniel did mention the fact that he hasn't got to drive it yet. Big grin on your face, because you have. We're going to have a look at the video when you got to turn a wheel for the first time at Jetta. How did that feel?
Honestly, it's amazing. There's two key factors that we've improved with the car is the weight and also the streamline slimness of the car. It's much more slippery through the air, and also on the acceleration and deacceleration, it's a lot more performance-wise increased. So it's going to be powerful, and when I drove it, I felt it. So
can you imagine when you finally get to unleash it on a racetrack? Because I mean, then the full potential will really be at your hands.
Can't wait.
So good. Daniel, obviously tough for you guys from a racing perspective. Season's meant to start in March, hasn't. How have you kept sharp?
Yeah, I managed to rope Keagan into a sim racing league with myself. We, you know, be running as a team like we do in real life, competing against some of the, you know, top sim racers in the country. And we actually had a few events where we actually had to play the team game. So it's not quite like real life, but almost there. And I think we've been keeping sharp.
But that for me is amazing though, because I mean, I just look at, I mean, people think racing drivers are tiny guys. I mean, you're the two longest beam poles I've ever seen fitting into race cars, but awesome as a team. You're almost the same height, you're the same frame size, you spend a lot of time together, and that is critical because it is a team sport. Yeah, you won last year, but you know, you can't do it without Daniel backing it up and vice versa.
100%. Daniel taught me a lot last year, and I think that's what helped me the most is the behind the scenes on the data, looking through each corner, trying to find the milliseconds of time, and also the advice that he gave me through techniques on brakes and how the car reacts and how it needs to go through the corner. And I had to change it, obviously, coming from a front-wheel drive car. So with Daniel's backing and help, and we work well as teammates, and I couldn't have asked for a better one.
Yeah, I know a lot of people might be confused hearing golf rear-wheel drive. We're going to talk about that technically a little bit later, but pressure obviously as defending champions. But you look at a car like this, Daniel, and you think, bring it on, we're ready.
You know, we work well together. I learn from him, you know, in different techniques that he uses, and he learns from me, and that's what's important.
Well, I think what we need to do now is actually see this amazing, incredible race car finally turning a wheel. We spoke about Jetta earlier. This is what the guys put together. It's amazing.
As maker of the people's car, Volkswagen is a firm believer in investing in people, and motorsport is a great way to showcase this.
The GTC, or Global Touring Car Series, is South Africa's premier circuit racing formula. We are the defending champions, so we are the ones with the targets on our back.
To successfully defend our 2019 titles, we had to build a completely new car.
And this is it. This is the 2020 Golf 8 GTI, designed and built by VW Motorsport in conjunction with numerous partners, all experts in their own field.
Racing with the new Golf 8 GTI will provide us with the perfect platform to showcase its performance aspects months ahead of the official launch in South Africa.
And more importantly for me, it's what my teammate Daniel Rowe and I need to take on the best drivers in the country.
In racing, it's all about power to weight. Our new Golf GTI, we've significantly lightened the motor car, making this one our fastest and most powerful Volkswagen GTC car yet. The hatchback styling of the GTI means we could shorten the car's overhang significantly, making it an all-round better handling package. The drivers especially will feel the handling package when turning into a corner.
This is the best handling car I've ever driven. With this new car and such a great team at Volkswagen Motorsport, I cannot wait to defend our title.
Volkswagen is ready to introduce the original Vrpa to South Africa and to cement our place in the performance hatch segment.
And Volkswagen Motorsport is ready to take on the competition in our quest to defend our GTC titles.
Bring it on!
Well, that is the car with the number 1 on it, ready for the grid. But Daniel has kindly allowed us to show you around his car, a showcase to workmanship as we go under the skin of the Golf 8 GTI GTC. This looks incredible.
Yeah, it's a proper car. Eh?
Wow. So this is the important stuff. What have we got under here?
This is where all the power comes from. So under the hood is the EA888 engine, which is used in Golf 8. Regulations state that we have to use the engine pretty much in Group N form. The only thing we're allowed to change is conrods and pistons, and those are also specified in the regulations. So quite controlled.
And guys, we're going to want to know numbers, yeah? Output, what are we looking at? Kilowatts, what, like 360?
Bit more than that. A little bit more than that.
So it's like what, nearly for the guys that are international,
Probably about 500
horsepower.
horsepower, yeah.
Torque?
600 newtons.
Sure, not bad. What I did pick up on earlier, I know a lot of people were going to be going, wow, it's a rear-wheel drive Golf. Just explain what makes this unique, because that is part of the regulations with GTC.
Yeah, the GTC regulations specify that it uses a transaxle rear transmission, and that's for all cars. So it's standard across brands.
But that's not the only thing that they regulate. I mean, I look at this, the guys are going to love the spoiler. This is not something that you do at home, but obviously the wing on this car is also regulated.
Yeah, so the aero package is also controlled in terms of the regulations. So the wing size has to be the same for all cars. And there's also specification on the position of the wing in relation to the chassis.
Now, when I start looking at what we've got set up inside this vehicle, this is always going to be a concern for me, because we've been trying for so many years to convince people to not drive their cars from the rear seats. Now they look at your legendary racing drivers, they're literally sitting in the rear of the Golf 8 race car, but that is purely from a balance perspective and performance ultimately for the car.
Yeah, look, the firewall is further back than usual. But we also have 2 very tall drivers, so that also. But it's good to have them far back and good for the balance. Yeah.
Well, it's also. I mean, I suppose if you look where the steering is now. The steering is literally at the B pillar, so you realise how far back everything's been pushed. Obviously, gearbox sitting in the rear as well. The brains of this, what makes all of this work and gets the performance out of it? What are you running here?
So we have to use Life Racing management system, and that's across all cars in GTC, in the top class anyway. And that's pretty much what runs the engine and all the data acquisition.
Is that going to be a challenge now, because it's essentially a new car? You know the tracks, but how much work is going to be going into tweaking that?
Look, we've got a lot of experience from last year, essentially the same engine. So this car is just a lot more nimble. So I think the biggest gain is going to come from the new chassis.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the guys are talking about. It just feels so much quicker, sleeker through the air as well. You need to stop this thing. These aren't standard brakes. Talk us through how that works.
Brembo brakes, 380 millimeter discs up front with 6-pot calipers, and at the rear 340 with a 4-pot caliper. All Brembo.
And is that, Mike, for me, is that also then regulated? Does everyone have to run with the same?
It's all regulated. It's, even the brake pads are regulated.
We mentioned earlier, I mean, if you've been around race cars like you have, been at racetracks, you just get a feeling. It's hard to quantify. You know you're looking at a fast car here.
These cars are beautifully built. If you look at them, you can see they're ready for action.
Well, I tell you, I think you're going to have that feeling as well. Wherever you may be in the world right now, you know this is a championship-winning car right there. Now, it may only be 2021 where you'll physically be able to stand trackside and experience the thrill of these cars in action. But stay connected on our social media pages to track the team's success as we keep you engaged and up to date on the GTC program. To all our South African media, please don't forget we are going to be hosting a Q&A session straight after this broadcast. Now, I was hoping to get my name on this car, but the boss beat me to it.
Thank you for sharing your time with us this afternoon. Let's go and win this thing.